Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you so much for having me today. It's great to be here with you all. I feel a lot of energy in the room, which is great. I know probably a lot of you are spread out, and it's nice to be all together at this time. And hopefully you can keep that energy bottled for the rest of the year. I was with my team about a month ago. It was in Miami, and it was warm there. I feel like we didn't get that for LA. I'm a little bit disappointed coming from DC, so maybe next time. A little bit of background on the views that I'm going to give you today. So I work for the Carlyle Group, which is a partner of Beautycounter. We're an investment manager. We have about $330 billion of assets under management. So I oversee our US portfolio for ESG. I look over about 100 companies. Beautycounter is my favorite. Don't tell anybody else. You make my job a lot easier because you're so amazing at sustainability. It's fantastic. When you came into the portfolio and we started the partnership 2 years ago, I was thrilled. My wife was very thrilled because she loves the products, which is fantastic. But I want to talk to you all today about a company's perspective on mobilizing people and what it means for companies like Beautycounter to engage on ESG. So again, I work with about 100 different companies in the US. And in terms of mobilizing people for action, I've really seen a groundswell over the past 5 years. I think after COVID, people had a recognition that we were burnt out on the norm. That was what was before. And a lot of people wanted to engage in their external passions. They wanted to bring their whole selves to work. They didn't want to just do the 9 to 5, punch the clock, be about whatever their job was. They needed something broader than just that job. And so what we found with a lot of our companies is you need to tap into people's personal passion. I imagine all of you here have personal passions of why you're here, why you chose to work with Beautycounter. You probably have a lot of options, but there's something in your life that probably called you for personal reasons. That's what we found is incredibly important to folks, no matter what company we're working with. Tap into that personal passion. I guarantee you there's an environmental or social related item that they are passionate about. It could be working in their local community. It could be doing a trash pickup. It could be commuting to work, lower carbon transport. There is something there. The next piece that we found is having a shared vision. You all have an incredible shared vision for what the future should look like. And it was so amazing to hear the first panel talk about that and all the advocacy work you've done over the past 10 years. You have to help a company build that vision. Companies are being held to a higher standard than they were in the past. It's not good enough, but it's getting better. Regulations are driving us in a good place. I think companies do like that, those clear guideposts of where we need to head. But you need to establish, what is that shared vision? Why can't tomorrow be better? It should be better. What does that better vision look like? We have companies we work with on healthcare. We have companies that we work with in the utilities sector. We have companies in the industrial manufacturing space. How are they making a better society? And if you can get the employees to understand what the vision is for the future, they want to be part of that. They want to be something that's different than their 9 to 5, their normal life. The third piece is pride. I've heard a lot of you talk about it on the first panel, pride. This is an incredible company to work for and work with. A lot of our companies, the people want to go home and brag to their friends, brag to their families about what they do in their job, that it means something, and it means something for their family members, for their future generations, the communities in which they live. And so if you can tap into that, I found that it's incredibly successful at being a motivator for change with companies to start to pull together pretty amazing ESG programs. And the great news I'll tell you is, because I've been doing ESG for 15 years ago, I'd tell people before it was cool. Because back then it was like, what is this? Another acronym, okay. Everybody knows about it now. It's amazing. It's amazing to see the change in the past 5 years. And we'll talk about some of the hope that we have for the future, but that is certainly one of them. I've seen a huge paradigm shift in the past 2 years in particular.
Amazing. And kind of piggybacking off of that, you get to see kind of a wide range of businesses, obviously. You kind of alluded to that on their sustainability journey. What do you think enables a company to create meaningful change when it comes to protecting the planet?
Yeah, there's a set of, I think, key practices that companies need to embark on. And I will, spoiler alert, Beautycounter's been fantastic at all of these. And not just because I have you all in the room, it is truly incredible what you've done. We use you as again, a guidepost for other companies and what you should look to achieve. The first is buy-in from the top. And so Mark here in the front row, CEO of Beautycounter, fantastic to have his support and partnership, working with Jen, working with Greg in the past, and what they've supported. They understand the vision for the company and what you need to do on ESG. Incredibly, incredibly important to have that buy-in from the top. You can't get very far without it. In your messaging to your customers, to your employees, to your investors, it also takes resources. Jen mentioned earlier in her comments that they've set a net zero target for carbon reduction. I don't know if anybody understands the full ramifications of that. That's huge. It's incredibly important. It's where the future is for all companies. We're going to talk a little bit about the extent of Beautycounter's footprint. and thinking about your products from end to end. It's amazing to have products that are healthy for people, but they're only healthy if they also have healthy ingredients, and that the people who made those ingredients were treated in the right way, in proper working conditions. And at the end of that product's useful life, that it could be recycled and flow back in a circular process. So incredibly important to think end to end. And that takes me to my next piece, which is targets. Having targets connected to global societal norms. Net zero is the wave of the future for companies, and there are a host of systemic implications when you go zero carbon for a company. It goes throughout your entire supply chain. It's not only the fuels you use in your transport, it's the products you choose. Products have their own inherent carbon footprint. Using recyclable materials has a lower carbon footprint than raw materials. So a company to set those targets that are aligned with global expectations and commit to those, huge step in the right direction. The third piece is around understanding, I would say what's called triple bottom line accounting. Most folks don't love to talk about accounting, but we are investors. It is important to earn a return, but it's people, planet, profit. That's triple bottom line, right? And so it was coined by a writer in the 90s, John Elkington. And I think it's finally come to fruition in terms of how businesses manage themselves more holistically. What it means is that profit doesn't exist in a vacuum. In order to be successful as a company, you have to think about your environmental and social impacts. You have to both measure those, but you also have to have a cognizance of, as you take your business forward, what your decision making means in terms of those environmental and social impacts on your people, on your suppliers, on your customers. There's circles of influence, and it's incredibly important to understand those. So it's all about the targets, it's all about the tone from the top, and it's also about transparency. And so a lot of our companies today are held to a much higher norm than they ever were in the past about what are you doing as a company? What does your progress look like? Show me the data. Working a lot with Jen in your ESG report and thinking about where are you today on packaging? Having data that shows that progress, not just making qualitative remarks about we aspire to do this or we hope to be there on that. Actually tracking that progress. There's rigor behind that, and it actually produces substantive change for business. So those are the items I think that can most help a business to move the ball forward.
Yeah, definitely. That's